morning, everyone, and online. We are here for our March meeting, which is always the second Tuesday of every month. It is 5 p.m. We have all of council here. Welcome, everyone. And let's start by Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Wood?
Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, generous God, who looks after our town and all of our citizens in the world, and we just know that we're coming through some tumultuous times. We've come through COVID as a world, as a country, as a town. Things are looking better. We see conflict on the news every day. But regardless of all of these things, in each community, there's people here that are always in need of support from each of us. So we ask you to give us the ability to lift ourselves up, each as a neighbor to the other, and continue to bless this council and help to make wise decisions on behalf of the town. In Jesus' name I do pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Wood. We have adoption of the agenda. Mr. Cease, any changes? Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Followed by minutes. We had a special meeting and a regular meeting. We will first vote on the special meeting minutes of January 18th. Have y'all read through them? Are there any changes or additions or edits? No. Can I ask your motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. Followed by the regular meeting minutes of February 8th. No changes. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. We have presentations every month, and we always start off with Student of the Month. And we were unable to get a photo of Yaylin Garcia Roblero. Her trait was perseverance, and next month we're going to start bringing them back in. So we will get these students back in our council meetings so they can be celebrated in person. Yaylin's teacher shared that while she faced many challenges at the beginning of 4th grade as a new student and having to learn virtually, she did not let those challenges stop her from powering through to do her best. During virtual learning, she would find the quietest nook in her home and ensure she could actively participate in her lessons. When she returned to in-person learning, she took off. She was focused, determined. She asked for help when she needed it and would happily help others. While she is quiet, she has come out of her shell and is an enthusiastic participant in the classroom. She always takes the extra mile asking for help. She's worked especially hard to improve her reading skills and improve her MAP test scores. Her perseverance and hard work make her stand strong among her peers and adults who know her, and they look forward to seeing her persevere even more. Her trait was perseverance, and she was one, just to remind everyone, of our whole entire cluster of over probably 13 or 14,000 students that we have in our Bluffton cluster. So we're thrilled, and congratulations. Our next presentation is an annual update, I think, and we have the Historic Bluffton Foundation, and we have your whole team, and Amanda is the chair of the board. And if you want to introduce, what are you? President sounds much better. She is the head honcho. Maybe introduce your team, and we look forward to hearing your update.
Took my first sentence. So.
Here you go.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for allowing us to speak today. My name is Amanda Denmark, and I'm the president of the Historic Bluffton Foundation. And we wanted to give you a little bit of an update of where we are today. Yesterday was our first day reopened since COVID, so we're pretty excited about that. As you may know, Kelly Graham, our executive director, recently stepped down over the last month, and a little bit over a month now, due to personal reasons. So in the interim, we have 3 part-time employees, which we'll introduce in just a moment. So they've been kind of holding everything together for us, while Jen, the vice president, and John Sulka, our treasurer, the 3 of us have all been meeting together trying to get a better understanding of the executive director role, what it needs to be, where we're going. So we've been meeting with town staff, we've been meeting with outside consultants, and we've been meeting with business coaches because we really want to understand what we need going forward, and we want to know what the town wants going forward. So with that, I'll let Kate Creech come and go over some updates.
Hello. Do I just hit the space bar to continue?
Hit it and see what happens. There you go, Tommy.
Oh, this is fancy. Okay. Hi, I'm Kate. So to start off to our mission for the Historic Bluffton Foundation, founded in 1981, the mission of the Historic Bluffton Foundation is to protect, preserve, and promote the history and cultural heritage of the town of Bluffton, South Carolina, through education, marketing, hands-on preservation of buildings and sites, maintenance of the Caldwell archives, and operation of the Hayward House Museum and Welcome Center. So as Amanda mentioned, there are 3 of us part-timers. So there's myself, Kate. I was hired on as the Director of Events and Administration. So I'm just really overseeing all of the events that come through our way, as well as trying to coordinate more community events. Then we have Jared Jester over here. He is our Marketing and Archives Director. And then Evan. He is our Director of Tours and Operations, so he also helps oversee the scheduling of all of our docents. We also have, so we have 7 active docents right now. We previously had around 14 prior to COVID. Since we've decided to go ahead and reopen after reaching out to our docents, we currently have around 7 active. We have a few that are no longer available, and we have a few that have other commitments and are planning on coming back in the fall. And then I think there's around 2 that also just aren't ready to come back, so we are respective of that. We have a team of 8 master gardeners who come and work on the property the first Thursday of every month. We have our 8 board members, 2 of which are here tonight. And then we also have a handful of members to the Historic Bluffton Foundation. That's also something that we're trying to revamp, and we are discussing heavily as to how we can kind of build that up. So some of you may know, we of course function as a museum and the welcome center to the town. We have a museum store, which we are really excited about, and hopefully bringing in some new products that will represent the town and be great sellers. We also maintain the Caldwell archives, which Jared does that for us. He's been working really hard on digitizing the archives, picking up where they were left off. We did reopen yesterday for tours. Right now, we're in kind of phase 1 of our tour plan. So to ease into it and to be respectful of our docents, we are asking that people who are interested in scheduling a tour give us a call so we can then reach out to our docents to schedule. If they call us early enough in the day, we may be able to have a docent come in that afternoon, but typically it's a 24-hour turnaround. But then myself and Evan are, hopefully I'm ready by the end of this month. Evan's pretty good already, but taking walk-in tours on a case-by-case basis. This Thursday is really going to be our first test because the farmer's market is right next door. We're anticipating a lot of foot traffic, and we're just going to take it in stride. So we are gearing up for busy season. Slow season, we averaged around 800 to 950 visitors each month. We should be trending closer to that 1,200 mark or even more now that the weather's nicer, except Saturday's doing something weird. And then we were voted as one of the top 8 wedding venues in Bluffton, so that was pretty exciting, especially for me as a previous history in wedding planning. The other huge portion of the Hayward House, aside from the historic museum on the inside, is the common ground area. That's where all of the events happen. The newest addition is the arbor at Common Ground, and so this has really served as a beautiful installation of lights, and it's great for when there are events that need tents because it's a perfect area to be tented. We do have the farmers market every Thursday. Of course, that's at Martin Family Park, but we do see patrons Coming over, we have Todd Meredith, who plays under the pavilion. He's there for a few hours, and there's going to be a newcomer as well. We also have multiple community events coming up. So this is going to be the first year we're partnering with Pastor Gwen of St. John's Church, and I believe she's working with Lindy with the town for Ribbons in the Sky. So we're really excited about that. We are planning on doing some stuff for Mayfest. We've been reaching out to a few folks just to see what all we can bring to the table for Mayfest. Bold Peanut Festival is already on the books. That's going to be September 24th, so mark your calendars. And we do plan for many more community events this year, hopefully participating in the Art Walk and then Bluffton and Bloom. The other bread and butter, so those are all fundraising efforts. The other bread and butter, for the museum, Welcome Center, and Common Ground are the private events, so weddings, baby showers, engagement parties, client events. We had a client oyster roast this past Saturday. It went fantastically, and when I went to check in, I was able to kind of mingle with some of the clients and the people that work for the real estate agency, hand out cards, socialize, do some networking, just to further our awareness in the town. There's some pictures. Yeah. Yes, people love us. It's great. Okay, so growth opportunities. This is the big one. So we really want to strengthen our partnership with the town and embrace every possible opportunity for preservation. We are now back on social media and trying to figure out a new rhythm and flow with that. For Instagram and Facebook, that's what we're focusing on right now. In a month or so, we're going to see how it goes with scheduling tours with our docents. We are anticipating we're going to need some more docents, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. We're already kind of preparing for that, though, internally. And then I'm actually going to pass it over to Jared to speak about the last two items.
Good evening. Doug Corcoran has generously donated about 350 to 500 pieces of art to the foundation. They're beautiful works of art that we're going to take into the archives, use to monetize for historic purposes, so creating NFTs out of some of them perhaps, selling some of them in the gift shop, and then getting them in a digital format. And also we're doing a Bluffton and Bloom party with Babby Guccio. So we're going to have a sweet tea off and then a pound cake off as well.
When is that?
That's going to be the latter part of April.
Fundraising.
You have to do the last one.
Okay.
And then Mike Reynolds as well. You're from Bluffton Wind. Mike made a donation about 2 weeks ago, about $1,600. So working tightly with Mike and learning more about the history and getting folks to come forward with the history in our town so we can take it into archives. We do have a treasure trove of information right over here that we're digitizing. It's a great asset to our town.
Questions?
Questions of anyone standing up there?
I have some.
Hand is up.
Bear with me.
That's why I have my entourage.
I'm excited to see all of you. I've not met all of you. Obviously, I know Amanda and Jared, and I'm excited by your enthusiasm and your youth. You've had some successes. You just highlighted some of them. The Arbor Pavilion that you worked with the town some time ago, and it's ended up, y'all have utilized it wisely. The number of events that you're speaking to right now are really great. Grants, where do you lie in the grant field? Are you doing anything on grants?
We're seeking out a ATAX grant from Beaufort County. There's just some paperwork we're waiting on the final approval for that. It was for a big repair to one of our historic outstructures.
The reason I asked, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
We're still waiting on getting that in, but
The reason I ask, and I don't know how feasible it is for your organization, you're having to reinvent yourself again. And I work for an organization a volunteer organization that has a grant writer, and he's been there 3 years. And it's amazing how you can track the revenue, and it just starts going when somebody's dedicated to that process. So based on the fact that you're trying to be a foundation, that is something I really think you should look into. One question I had is I went back and pulled up all your bylaws and everything, looked at them, and you're supposed to have 2-year terms up to 6 years, but it appears, are you abiding by that? Because it doesn't appear that that's the case, or you need to change your bylaws. Another thing
Yeah, I'm
was
not
I was
quite
curious
sure. We were
about,
going by Kelly's direction on some things, so we'll have to look at
just check on that. The other thing was on the, I pulled up the 2015 strategic plan, and I was sitting on the board at that time with that strategic plan. And unfortunately, it appears you've lost about 50% of your membership. That number back then, and this is straight from the report from staff, so current membership is 149 members, of which 71 are annual paying, 15 are complimentary, and 63 are lifetime members. And our docents receive a free membership if they work at least 12 hours in a calendar year, and blah, blah, blah. And the point I'm trying to make, and it was always important to me when the short time I was there is, and you know this, I'm not telling you anything you don't know, gotta have members.
It's in our short list of things to look at what the membership means and the whole membership program altogether, because right now, we've only got, we've got a handful of members, but other than a sticker on their car and a discount in the gift shop, what does it, like, what's the draw of becoming a member? So we're working on.
Try to speak a little
Sorry.
louder in the mic so others can hear
Okay,
you.
so we're working on revamping that whole membership program and to make it more enticing than it currently is.
Well, you're doing the things to entice people there. So stick Jared on them and let him grab them and squeeze their arm and
Right.
make them sign up for membership.
He's working on it.
But 50% reduction, that's a big number, and you got a lot of work to do. And and I know you're dealing with staff on an exit strategy from 2 years from now when the Squire Pope House is completed. And I would think it's only a suggestion because you have your own organization to run. And Jared, I know you're well acquainted with this process, but I would think you would come up with a proposal of some kind to possibly submit to the town near the end of the year. What are your measurements? What are your metrics? I mean, you say I want to go here, but how do you intend to get there? And you need to lay that out. And that's your strategy. Put it on paper, lay it out. It can always change, but that's your goal, and that's what you mark yourself by.
And I have contacted, I've had a meeting with a business coach recently, and they are willing to help us pro bono to look at goals, strategies, how to get there.
Well, you've got the
Like
talent. Talent's right here. You've got the talent. So again, I just would like to see you come back with something for us to look at some later point to see if you're on the right track. And again, we can't tell you how to run your organization. It's merely a suggestion.
And we've also been talking with Stephen and Chris and Glenn about partnership with the town, what you guys want to see from us, what you're expecting, what we're thinking, and how can we do that together. So we still want to have another meeting with Chris and Stephen, if that's okay, after this to go over some of those other items, just so we can figure out going forward what those goals and tactics are. So we just want to be completely transparent and open, and we need help, so they seem pretty good at it. We're gonna
Thank you,
use
Mayor.
them.
Any other questions?
I'm sure y'all figure it out.
Yeah. I'll just say ditto to Dan. I can talk now because I can't vote on anything y'all bring to us. But membership always seems to have been an issue. And, I think a lot of it is not bringing others in. And I love this group because it's all fresh, new faces. I always kind of teased about the Hayward House, but it was so true. It was a small membership of 50. And if one died, it moved to 49. And I think that's for it. So, it's just a closed group. And you look at Boys and Girls Club, you look at, just name it, of people who've embraced our growth. People are itching to be part of history. You could just pick a community a month. And I bet you, and if you need help getting emails and databases, we all can figure it out and send them. Yeah, give Jared the computer for a week. The video is amazing. I'd love to know how many clicks you've had on that video and have people really donated before, after they watched it. That is fabulous. I don't think that gets enough press, that old screen. So, yeah, keep coming to us. We'd love to see it go up. We are really invested because we give a lot of money
And
every year.
that's why we want to update you. We didn't realize some things came to light after other events happened, so we want to make sure and keep you guys in the loop and let you know what we're doing. So I would like to be able to come in front of you more often than not. And I think that, you know, for me and Jen, it's important for us to be here and to do this with you guys.
I think in the past, maybe every other month or so, Kim, we can go back and look. You come to public comment, and we've had 1,700 visitors to our site. They came as far as Japan. And just really cool statistics that if they could figure it out 10 years ago, we surely can figure it out today, like even their names and, you know, what they ate for dinner. So,
Well, now that we can have visitors, I mean,
yeah. And how about the Bourbon Garvey house? That needs to open. Is that on the table to get open for walk-ins? Are y'all still doing that?
we need to talk with Stephen and how we're going to coordinate that, because we're still trying to understand the business part of it
Okay.
and how that actually works and who does what. But that's what we need to.
I think the last conversation we had was not having somebody there for walk-ins, but if somebody wanted to take a tour of it, they would meet them over there and give them a tour. The docents would. So they're working through that and trying to expand that and get that back where it was.
Because we had another group that took the donations and sat there. I mean, it needs to be open. We spent a lot of public money on that house, $500,000. So it's hard when people are peeking through the windows, and I think we all have to figure that out, not just y'all.
Yeah, and that's why, you know, for Jen and I, this is not our number one job.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
neither
And
is
so
this.
we're trying
We're
to-
figuring out a lot, and
Along the way, we've been figuring it out, like a crash course the last month and a half.
Oh, you've got a great team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one last observation, and I thought about this today, is there's a lot of nonprofits in the community, and all of us serve on a nonprofit, and a lot of us are all competing for the same pile of money, right? Like, I would name names, but whether it's people in need of food or medical, whatever it is, you're unique. Nobody has your game. Nobody's doing preservation. So I think you have an opportunity here that a lot of us are all competing for the same dollars. You're going to be competing for something entirely that the people that want to give to that mindset will. So I think you got a lot to work with.
We have a lot more than what we spoke about tonight going on behind the scenes that Jen and I are trying to figure out before we present it to people. So there are more thoughts.
Well, bring it as uncontinued. Bring it as an update. If it's every other month, come at public comment, just get with Kim, 3 minutes. You don't have to do a long presentation, and give us some little bullets. It gets the news out too to people who are here. So, well, good. Well, it's a good group. Welcome. Nice to meet y'all. I didn't know you, Evan, but Kate grew up in Bluffton. She was my neighbor when she was all of 4. Now she's grown up. So, thank y'all. Good to see
thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay. Next is public comment. Public comment is 3 minutes in length. If you would follow our rules of decorum, you must give your name and your address before you start. You have 3 minutes, and then we politely thank you when that buzzer goes off. Speak to council, avoid any disrespect to anyone in this room, confine your questions to the jurisdiction of this council if possible, and just basically be mindful and respectful of those who are present. So we have one tonight, and it's Michael Gleason.
I'm gonna skip over them, but I'll do my best.
Spare us.
Name and address, please, sir. When you get up to the mic.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council. My name is Mike Gleason. I live in Hilton Head Plantation on Hilton Head Island. I've been it's kind of ironic we're here in a school building that the school district still owns, but I've been a property owner in Beaufort County since 1991, full-time resident since 2008, witnessed explosive Bluffton growth aided by annexations. I've supported transportation taxes, referendums that created Bluffton Parkway in 278 and 170 widening, to name a few. It must add up to over $1 billion by now, and more is suggested to be needed. I've also supported school bond referendums to build and expand Bluffton schools in word and deed by volunteering. Funding for school construction is limited to countywide voter referendums and school impact fees. That's it, as you know. I watched in horror at the number of pre-planned false flags at your last meeting. Tabling this matter is a cowardly way to kill school impact fees. It's not on your agenda tonight. Why? Affordable housing excuse? That's a joke. Seriously, how big is that going to be while dwarfed in your frenetic building pace? You can easily eliminate or reduce your sky-high permit fees, or you can simply pay for them with the revenue you easily collect. One of you brought up Act 388. That doesn't cover school bond taxes one bit. The bottom line is how it looks on the other side of the bridge. You want to pass the buck to all county taxpayers like freeloaders. That's how it looks. Just as you have done in the past. If you fail to enact school impact fees, you can expect stiff, organized resistance to any future referendum that benefits Bluffton roads or schools. That's a promise. If the town of Bluffton won't directly support the education of their children, why should the rest of us give a damn? Thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you. Next is communications from mayor and council. I'll look to the right. Anything on this side? Anything on this side? Do we have any updates from any of the committees you all serve on? And I don't have them in front of me, but y'all all know who you serve. Any updates from your meetings, if there have been any in the last month?
The only thing I will offer is LOCOG, Low Country Council of Governments. I mentioned last time about the census, and it could impact us, and got with Stephen, actually prepared a document I was going to give to everybody, but which condensed it down, but then I got a call from the director because I had some questions, and supposedly she is going to come speak to different groups about that because, again, the board can be so large we can't manage it. So anyway, there's more to come in the future, hopefully, about that.
Just an update on Sulka. Speaking of impact fees, the county had not delivered the IGA to any of the municipalities. I don't know if they have yet or not on the traffic impact fee.
You mean the affordable housing?
The IGA for the new impact fee that Mayor Murray said we hadn't received the IGA.
Yeah, still nothing on anything outside of the school impact fee. Everything else, I know Heather actually went to a meeting they had about the transportation impact fee, about looking at the projects and trying to get it down to something manageable. So, but we still haven't received any IGA or anything related to that.
So that's not on our plate. And I was going to respond to him. It's not cowardly. We have questions that aren't answered, period. So I think he needs to speak to Hilton Head's council. And I would have told him that if he would have stayed. So there. So much for that.
I agree.
Thank you. We just won an award from the Municipal Association on our reflection garden that has to do with the mental health of all of our staff, specifically the police department. And Dan shouted out to Bridget, which, Bridget, you did bring up the whole, the social worker and really focusing on mental health. And I really think that spearheaded this. And Debbie listens to all of us and just whittled in her creative room. And we went out after this award that we've never really gone out after it, when it's an award that every town could capture. It's not in our population numbers anymore. So Chief or Stephen, you want to talk a little, say anything about it, or do we want to bring it to council full-fledged?
Well, it won't come, we won't actually get awarded until the July annual meeting, but I'll let the chief talk about what her and Sergeant Perez went and presented about everything. He's our wellness and recruiting sergeant, so they went and presented, and she can kind of talk about
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much for having me up here. As you know, mental health and wellness of the officers, particularly town of Bluffton, is very important and near and dear to our hearts. I've been more than pleased that you all have supported all your initiatives for this. very much so, with budget, emotional support, every kind of support that you can have. The town manager and town staff as well. This is a project that didn't just encompass the police department, it encompassed our whole town and involved community partners. It really is a chance for all of us to come together and recognize and realize that hard jobs have to be done, and these men and women in the police department do those hard jobs. I cannot thank you enough for your undying support. Now, we happen to win an award for this, sure. And trust me when I tell you that when we went and we made the presentation at the end of February 28th, as a matter of fact, it was a town-driven community effort that we talked about. We talked about our 10-tier system that we have, and many of you not only support those initiatives, but have come up with them as well, with our behavioral mental health specialist and our community mental health advocate. So though we won this award as a town of Bluffton, you all won it too, and I cannot thank you enough. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, we're excited to get more information on it. We'll be at Municipal Association in July, but if you want to go online now and see it, they've announced it on their site, masc.gov, sc.gov, Municipal Association in South Carolina. It's pretty cool. Okay, anything else? You're off to Lisa. B. Yes, sir.
The mayor is too modest to say anything about heritage. She doesn't have her background today, but heritage looks like it will back to full speed, just like we were in 2019. We had sponsored a media day last Monday, and it was nice to have a large number of people back on the grounds. We also had Stan Smith, one of our trustees, who's going emeritus because he's turning 75, was given the Order of Palmetto by Governor McMaster last Friday night for the service that he has performed for our state over all the years. So it was a good week for Heritage last week, and we are looking forward to seeing you all in April.
And there's some on a scholarship committee, and I'll tell you, the kids that come through today are some smart children, and where they go to school are far different than we all thought we were going to go growing up, but a really neat, diverse group, and heavy on Bluffton. May River and Bluffton High School had most of them, and there were some students from Bluffton that went to other schools. So even the board said, what do y'all feed your children? Like Bluffton water, and they drink it. So it was really cool. I hope y'all get to see pictures of that from Monday. Okay, anything else? Next is public hearing. We have a public and final hearing on amendments to the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Article 3, Section 323A. We are on final reading, but let's open up public hearing first. First call for public hearing of item 9.1. Second call for public hearing, the public comment at public hearing for Section 9.1. Third and final call for comment on the public hearing under Section 9.1. Do you notice that faster? That counts, I hope. Public hearing is closed. Kevin, any changes?
No, ma'am.
Any updates? Do y'all want to hear any more updates from this? Are you ready to go to a motion?
I'm ready.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the amendments to the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Unified Development Ordinance, Article 3, Application Process, Section 3.2.3A, Public Hearing Notice, Timing of Public Notice Requirements for UDO Text Amendments?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Again, this gives us the ability to do it in a monthly basis and not have a cutoff on short months. So really great pickup from y'all to get this straightened. Any other comments? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Item 10, under formal agenda items, we have Natalie with consideration of Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee funding recommendations for the quarter ending December 31st, 2021.
Sorry. Good evening, Mayor and Town
Good
Council. The Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee met on November 16th to review the applications for quarter ending December 30th, 2021. There were 3 applicants this quarter. The total requested amount was $253,195, And the total amount recommended by ATAC is $252,216.15. There are currently over $2 million available for distribution, split between state and local accommodations taxes. The first request is the additional request from the May River Theater. This is a request from ATAC last quarter to enhance their marketing expenses for their 2022 production season. And so ATAC has recommended an additional $21,216.50. The second request is Old Town Bluffton Merchant Society. This is their annual request for Bluffton as a destination for marketing expenses. The request totals $16,000. And the final request is a request from the town of Bluffton. And this is for the Squire Pope Carriage House restoration. And the total amount of the request is $215,000. I don't think anybody came, but I am happy to
You're it.
try and answer any questions that you may have.
So we'll go through this one at a time. May River Theater, y'all have had this packet. Do you have any questions of Natalie on the first request? Amount requested was $22,195, and amount recommended was $22,216.50. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Next is Old Town Bluffton Merchant Society. Any questions of Natalie on this one? Amount requested was $16,000. Amount recommended was $16,000. Is there a motion to accept?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And finally, Town of Bluffton Squire Pope Carriage House Restoration. Any questions of Natalie? It's a great article in the paper, I thought, on this from Bluffton today. Amount requested $215,000, amount recommended $215,000. Is there a motion to accept? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A question on this, are we really actively pushing this out to get more nonprofits in the door? We've got money we need to get
We do.
out.
We're gonna increase, well, we're gonna start back up our media releases. And some of the papers will also pick that up as well, put them in their articles, and then also our social media, so.
Have we had workshops scheduled to bring in the nonprofits?
We have had workshops scheduled, yeah, we had one in July, and we're open to any suggestions to try and get more applicants in.
Hey, thinkers out there, any suggestions to get our nonprofits in a room?
I'm hoping now that events are
Thinking, you know, I'm looking at you too.
as we're seeing cases drop and events pick back up, we'll see more applications.
Yeah. Maybe look at the old, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Just one question, Natalie. What is our limit on the amount of ATAX that we can use for this project? I know there's boundaries and guidelines that we have to go by, so what,
For which project?
for the Squire Pope, I mean, is this something we can keep tapping into every quarter? Or is there some type of limit on how much of the ATAX that we can actually use, if I remember right?
I don't know the answer off the top of my head, but I do not believe there's a limit. And we can get that answer for you. But I am not aware of a limit, but we'll take a look at it for you.
If you're not aware of a limit, then why are you only asking for 215?
That's all we've got for out for bid and ready and getting and moving forward with. And once we get past stabilization and we get a better cost for what's the next phase, we'll probably come back and ask for additional funds.
Same question. Why you only asking for 215?
That was basically the estimate they had for the shoring up and the roofing and all that is in the first phase. I don't know if Kim's in here. She can probably talk about it better than I can. She actually prepared the application.
Good evening, Council. Pleasure to be here. So, sir, to your question, that is my understanding what was available that needed to be expended or was going to have to be turned back into the state. So the town didn't want to compete with other nonprofits. However, these funds were not going to be granted, and we had a project that was suitable and appropriate. and that's what we took. Is that correct? Okay, double checking with the
I
person.
would jump on Sarah Riley Hooks, and we're not competing with nobody. Like, if we're not getting them in the door, they can always deny us or recommend less.
And that's
I
true. This
mean-
was the first time that we had ever gone for any of these ATAC funds, so this was our trial. Seeing how the committee would respond, as well as council, and again, ensuring that we weren't competing with any other nonprofits. This was a last minute, hey, we're not getting applications in, the town has a project, why don't we apply for this amount of money that we might have to turn back into the state so that we don't do that?
Okay.
But I don't think it'll be the last time you see us come and ask for some for this project.
And to clarify, there's two types of ATAX, so there's state and local. So this was to spend down some of the state so that we didn't lose it when it expired. But the local ATAX, we are planning to utilize a greater portion of that this year in the proposed budget, which we'll be talking about.
Go back to what you just said. The state, you can lose it?
Yeah, so you have, what is it, 2
Time
years?
2 years.
To use a
years.
receipt.
Okay. And just for, you're the attorney, but I've never, when I used to read that stuff, the statute, I never saw where there was ever a limit for ATAX dollars.
Mr. Hamilton, you had a question?
I still think you didn't look at the big picture, $2 million. I think that's the big picture. So it's money that we have access to, and now's the time.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, Kim, for answering that question. Next, we are on to number 2 under item 10, formal items, consideration of amendments to the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, Article 5, Section 5.3, and Section 5.3.3, Natural Resources and Tree Conservation, Lot Landscaping, 5.3.8, fee in lieu of tree replacement and/or landscaping. This is first reading, and I'm so glad it's on our agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, you kind of teed it up for me. As you all know, we're here this evening for amendments to the UDO, the sections that were just referenced. This has been a long time coming. We've been going through quite a few of the UDO edits. This is one that was brought back at a workshop. I don't remember the exact date, but we were able to consolidate a lot of these requirements because of the stormwater regulations that were passed back in September. So we're able to modify our requirements, but once we got the stormwater regs in place, we're actually able to then move forward with these proposed amendments. Again, the Stormwater Ordinance was updated. That was Section 510 of the Unified Development Ordinance. So a couple of things is that it prohibits the mass grading and clearing to ensure proper lot drainage, requires that better site design practices, and that's to preserve natural buffers as well as trees that are beyond those buffers. And then the Stormwater Ordinance does apply town-wide. And then these proposed amendments that we have in front of you, because of the Stormwater Ordinance, the way that it was written, it references back to this Section 5.3, which then gives us the ability to apply these conditions town-wide. So what we're doing, it's not just in areas regulated by the Unified Development, but is over the entire town. So some of the things currently, we do require a 75% tree canopy for areas that are not located within not in a PUD. What we are proposing that is if you have a property that is being developed that is less than 1 acre, that you'll be required to provide a 75% tree canopy. Now, I can't give you that. I can give you the exact amount of 75%, but it depends on the types of trees. So different trees have different canopies. And when we calculate that, it's all calculated at mature growth. So this would apply to all of the properties. Let's see. And then the buffered trees may count towards meeting that canopy requirement. So for land disturbance that is at least 1 acre, we would require the 15 hardwood trees, and that the existing trees within the buffers would not be counted towards that requirement. I know that was a big concern in the past, is people were kind of meeting that loophole of well, we have these, 700 trees in the buffer, so we don't have to save any other trees of where we're developing it. So that was one of the concerns that you as council had, so we made sure that we addressed that. And this would apply townwide. So we do have a replacement for large protected trees. So a protected tree is any tree that is over 8 inches, and we have a replacement requirement. So if you have trees that are 8 to 12 inches, it's a 1 tree requirement. 12 to 18 is 2 trees, 18 to 24 is 3, and then significant trees, which are 24 inches, would require 5 trees. And then for trees that are under the American holly, dogwood, redbud, southern magnolia, and the red buckeye is a 1 tree replacement. Now we also, when those trees are being planted, that is a 2.5-inch caliper, which it's really not that big. We're talking like this big. But what we're doing is we're encouraging larger trees to be replanted. So that way, if you are, if you're required to have 12 trees, I'm just using round numbers right now, 12 trees at 2.5 inches, then you could potentially have 6 trees that are at 4 inches. So what that does, obviously it costs more for a larger tree, but then from an impact standpoint, you get a larger tree that is being planted, so immediately has an impact to it. And then also if you have a 6-inch caliper tree, that would count towards the 3 tree replacements. And just anything beyond 6 inches for trees are very difficult to transplant. So if you plant a tree that's larger than that, the likelihood of it dying is greater. So we typically do not go beyond that 6-inch caliper. We are including the fee in lieu of the tree planting. So of any of these replacement trees that they're required that cannot be planted on site, they could pay into the tree fund. And that fee is based off of the tree caliper inch at market rate. So during the development plan process is when we would be calculating all of these trees, all of the replacement trees, where they're going to go. And if they can't meet that requirement, at that point, we would work out the calculations to figure out how much they would have to then pay into the tree fund. What they would do is they would go to a reputable tree nursery to get a quote for the cost of the tree, cost of the installation, and the cost of the 1-year maintenance. They provide that documentation to us. We review it to make sure it is correct, and then they would pay that amount into the tree fund, and then it could go towards planting and maintenance of trees for public projects. We have the review criteria that were listed in the staff report. I'm happy to go over any of them. Again, this was all high level. If you want, I'm happy to go through the actual text itself, but it does meet the review criteria. This was reviewed and recommended approval by the Planning Commission at their last meeting, 4-1. So this evening, you have in front of you the ability to approve the application as submitted, approve it with amendments, or to deny the application. Process-wise, this evening, we're at the first reading, and then it's anticipated we'll bring this back to you in April for a second reading. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions?
Kevin, on one point here, this almost looks a little open-ended to me with the species of tree. If we're going to allow them to go and get a quote, so to speak, of a replacement tree, what it would cost, the 1-year maintenance and all that, how are we going to, how would you tell them, how would you prevent them, I guess I would say, from going and buying the cheapest tree?
Understandable. So
instead of buying an oak tree, they're going to go buy something that's...
So they would have to use, it would have to be native type trees, so you can't use like an invasive species. And then also we do require that that the hardwood trees, so you would go with a list of elms, of oaks, I'm trying to think of a few of the other ones, but an actual hardwood, you can't use palm trees to meet that requirement. You can't use wax myrtles or crepe myrtles to meet those requirements. Those are not allowed. So the actual cost of it is the nursery regulates these costs. So we would make sure that the mixture of the hardwoods, as you normally would be required in a landscape plan, whatever those trees they're missing, whatever that calculation is, we'd be able to figure it out and make sure that they're not just finding, a 1.5 inch crepe myrtle tree. And we were like, no, that doesn't meet the requirement.
Whatever's plentiful and on sale that day. So, okay, just looks a little
Where
complicated.
is there that shows these are not trees allowed? Is that a normal part of y'all's process in some book that tells them they can't have wax myrtles? Or you said they're not allowed, but how do we know that?
In the landscaping sections of the code, we do have that information already in there.
Questions?
No question, Kevin. I just had a comment. I love the detail and everything that went into the plan, and that we are progressive in consideration of being able to reforest and replant when development and things occur that might disturb a property. So I'm glad to see we're in that direction.
Great, thank you.
One question. You never thought about this. I don't even know. So if you have 10 acres and 5 of it's wetland, do they ever have a reason to go into the wetlands to remove trees for some reasons?
If they're impacting the wetland, like they're wanting to, they get an Army Corps of Engineer permit. They have that ability. If they're crossing a wetland, they have that ability. Obviously, everything has to be permitted, but those are possible impacts to a wetland. Or fill it in. A lot of places do have existing permits from 20 years ago to fill in a lot of these permits, and that's what was, as these PUDs came online, they got a lot of those permits a long time ago, but they are valid for years at a time.
Question, I think we need to put together a map showing where we'd plant, and I think we need to commit to planning, not paying for events, or, and I know Arbor Day is important, but where are the areas we need to replant? And maybe that's the beautification committee can work on that.
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll have some area knowing, so they paid whatever, this is where they're going.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe something just a thought. Any other questions?
Yes, just real quick to comment on that. You will see in your strategic plan action agenda item, there is the reforestation plan. That is a separate action agenda item, and we see this as working together with that. So the funds that we would receive from the fee in lieu of would be used for that reforestation plan. We haven't quite figured out all the details of that, but we're looking to others, such as City of Greenville, that has a good program together that does identify where to plant, how to distribute trees, where they can go, all sorts of details. So that's the next step.
Anything else? This is first reading. Is there a motion to approve the amendments to the Town of Bluffton Code of Ordinances, Chapter 23, UDO, Article 5, Design Standards, Section 5.3, Natural Resources, Tree Conservation, Planting, and Landscaping, specific to 5.33, Tree Conservation, Section 5.37, Lot Landscaping, and Section 5.3.8, fee in lieu of tree replacement and/or specific landscaping? That would be a motion.
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Great job, guys.
Great, thank you.
All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That's unanimous. We'll see second reading next month. Next, we have consent agenda. There are 4 different sections there, all with very important information, specifically in section 1, because all of our departments spend a lot of time. It's the very first thing I read out of respect for the work y'all do, and it's full of information. Is there anything you'd like to pull off of the consent agenda? If not, is there a motion to accept the items under the consent agenda? Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That is unanimous. We have a motion, if someone would make a motion to go into executive session for 4 items: personnel matters regarding town council appointments, boards, committees, and commissions. That's FOIA Act 30.470A1, contractual matters relating to a public-private partnership to develop workforce and affordable housing to town-owned property. That is FOIA 3470A5. Contractual matters pertaining to the Historic Bluffton Foundation, and that is FOIA 3470A2. And finally, discussions relating to negotiations and contractual arrangements for acquisition of real property, FOIA 3470A2.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Will there be action after executive session? Not that we have.
Yes.
Well, Joe's here.
For appointing.
Yes.
So we'll be appointing boards, committees, and commissions. Joe, if you want to stay. Okay. All in favor, say by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? We are going in there. If y'all are welcome to stay. No votes were cast. We have to make motion. We have a motion from executive session on advisory appointment and reappointment of town boards, commissions, or committee members. Is there a motion to appoint Tim Wood at large for Accommodations Tax Committee, Evan Goodwin, Old Town resident, for the Historic Preservation Commission, and Jim Flynn and Lydia DePaul, both as professional for Planning Commission? As well. Well, let's do those.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to appoint Joe Walsh to Bluffton Township Fire District Board and appoint Connie Pouncey, Gail Bell, and Sarah Reed to our newly formed ARPA committee with Community Foundation of the Low Country?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, state by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, third.